Right. Welcome you all to Friday Night Live. Today we're going to do it with a twist. I'll even change my accent and I'll become Oga. Right now I am your chief, also your host. I am Chief Oga Mpambo Ashe. Hello? And today our guest is going to be Oga Gate. Oga Gate. So I will start the Zim way of doing it. Magadini. Yes, we should show the world. We should show the world who we are and what we do. Magadini. Yes. So today we are going to be talking about Africa, but we are going to be talking about Africa in relation to God's plan and where Africa is placed in God's plan. So I am your chief, and you are my villagers, and we have this Oga of ours who's coming to tell us about this God that is trying to mention to us, so that we come to understand this God that he's mentioning. In our village here, Oga, we have our ancestors. We call each other, for me, I'm Zou. Some are Soko, some are Shumba, some are Mamoyo. And we do worship our ancestors. But you are coming here with this new narrative of teaching us that there is a God. And wants us Africans to be part of this plan that God is presenting to us. And in my understanding, Oga, Africa is a very beautiful place.
Indeed.
If you know, Oga, we have about 2,000 languages.
Just in Africa?
Just in Africa. We're not talking about other places. Just Africa. If you go to Europe, you can speak in English. Most probably everyone will understand you.
Through and through.
We have Swahili, we have Chitonga, we have Shona, we have Ndebele, Zulu. We can name it all. Just to mention it, we are actually the second largest in terms of number. If I counted correctly, I think Oga Forchu will confirm with this one with me. I think we have about 30.3 billion people.
Just in Africa?
In Africa.
Okay.
So you are telling me that there is a God who is invested in the 30.3 billion people right now. Not only that, Oga, you know Africa, we are so blessed. In Africa, we have very beautiful, fine women. Africa. You can get all shapes and sizes in Africa, Oga. Not just that, Oga, we have the most beautiful diamonds. You know, Oga, just to mention, we actually have the largest reserves of diamonds. And 50% of gold in Africa is here.
Okay.
So as I look at your topic, Oga, and you're telling me that God has a plan, and I'm saying, Oga,
What are the plan?
What is the plan? Okay. The minerals are there. Oh, actually, to add more, do you know we have the longest river?
Okay.
River Nile.
Alright.
Cuts across where to where? We have water, resources.
Plenty plus.
A plenty plus. Then you mention
Of a God.
of a God. And we have ancestors. We believe in our ancestors, we worship our ancestors, we're petrified. So tell me, who is this God that you are talking about that we have to start acknowledging in our lives?
Okay. Now, when you consider the concept of God,
Yes.
maybe I'll borrow words from other scholars. I would say, in all of us, regardless of our race and tribe,
Yes.
in all of us, there's a God-shaped void in our heart, such that we have the quest to worship.
Okay.
So the fact that you worship something, it's an indicator that there is a being or there is a hunger in you to worship. You know, your neighbors in India, they go to an extent of worshiping even cows. So the reason why people go to that far is because in them there's a voice that is yearning, worship something. There's a higher being than you are and the things that you see. The reason why maybe perchance you notice that in Africa and in their narrative, you guys, you worship the ancestors. It's because you're saying they are beyond us or they're bigger than us. So we worship that which we think is bigger and better than us.
Yes.
So I'm saying above all these things that you can think of, there's a higher being above all these beings and above all these spirits that we can think of. Then there is the spirit above the spirits, or there is a being above all beings that becomes the God.
Okay.
Yes. So this is, it's more like when you go through other beings to worship this God, you are worshiping him via when you have the ability to worship him directly, when you have the ability in the room to access him on your own.
Okay.
So you don't need them to go to him, this higher being, through anyone else, but you can have access to him on your own. You don't need to have a big congregation so that he can speak to you. In your own closet, wherever you are, you can have access to this God.
Ah, okay. So, Oga, you are telling me someone is going to lose this job in this village soon. Because you're saying, Oga, that we can talk to this God directly.
Directly.
Ah. But I remember I was talking to Oga Munashe, and Oga Munashe was telling me that if I need to get blessings, I should go to him.
Okay.
And I remember I used to bring some funny things to him to first give me a blessing. Are you telling me that is nullified right now?
Okay. You notice that in all systems of worship, regardless of where you're coming from Africa, there's a belief system that you can't then approach a God without anything in your hand. Okay. So that's the reason why you notice that in African understanding, you need to bring a God, you need to bring a bed so that you approach this God. So everywhere where there's a worship system, there's some kind of something that you're going to bring, more like to appease the gods or to start or to initiate a discussion with this God. So you mentioned Africa. I'll pick some of the countries that I know in Africa that have the concept of God in them from ancient times. Yeah. You speak of the Washona people. They believe in a God who has a name. And the name of the God is Musikaran.
Yes, yes.
So the concept that we hear from books of today, that people evolved and the Big Bang Theory, is a concept that is not coming from Africa. The African concept of origin is a concept of a being that created.
Yes.
Because Musikaran is just saying, we as humans, we didn't just erupt, we didn't just come from elsewhere. There's someone who sit down and he created. So the African understanding of God is a God who created, number one. Number two, you go to the Ndebeles, to the Zulu, they have their God as Umdali, Umlimo,
yes.
Right? The same thing, Umdala is to create again. So even in the Ndebele culture, Zulu culture, they believe in a God who also created.
Yes.
So you understand that when we talk of God in the African context and the narrative, we are talking of a God who created, not a being that was created. When Africa was being colonized,
yes.
The beauty of it is we have these gadgets. We can go on the internet and Google these things. There's a letter that was written by King Leopold II, as he was writing to missionaries who were coming to Africa, to your neighbors, to Congo.
Yes.
So as he wrote the letter to the missionaries, you can Google these things. He said in 1883, you guys are going to Africa and you're going to evangelize. Don't think you are introducing God to Africa.
Okay.
They already have a God, or they have their gods. These things they know. What you may need to do is, as you evangelize, make sure the interests of Belgium are put forward. Otherwise, you're not introducing a God. So I'm coming to you as well, not introducing a God, because a God you already have.
Yes.
But maybe the method of worshiping the God may be different.
I like that, Oga. You bring a very interesting viewpoint. And I like it, Oga, because you showed that there is somehow a connection between us and between God.
Yes, there is.
And there is some form of authority via creation on us. Am I right? So that automatically means that we should worship that which has created us.
Yes.
I like that man.
For example, we have people in Egypt who worship the Nile, the longest river you mentioned.
Yes.
Okay. it's folly of the highest order to worship that which was created when the creator is there. So I think it makes sense then to go direct to the one who created, not that which was created.
Okay.
For example, in Egypt, Pharaoh was a god, or is a god, and is a being. You get it? Or the ancestors that you mentioned, these are people who lived, who had limitless limitations. But when they die now, we presuppose in Africa that they now know better, they now have other powers, superpowers, so to speak, such that they can now have a connection with deity. But now, when one has died, that one has been reduced. How then do we glorify that which has died when it has been reduced?
Okay.
So it's some kind of a mismatch, whereby you are powerful as you are living, but when you're dead, you can't. So you connect to God better when you're living than you just can't when you're dead.
When I'm dead. Okay, I like that, Oga. So, villagers, as your chieftain, I'm saying to you right now, throw away those jujus that you have been holding. Because they are dead. They don't fix anything or give us anything.
I think one of the villagers has a hand on it.
Yes, yes. Yes, cool.
Okay. 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 Thank you for that question. You understand, King?
Yes.
That when colonizers came, they used the Bible.
Yes.
Rather, let me say they abused the Bible. And they brought forth a religion of suppression and colonialism in the minds of people. Not that the Bible was wrong on its own, but how it was interpreted and how it was put forth to us. For example, we can talk of fire. Fire on its own is no problem. Water on its own is no problem. But if it is misused,
It becomes a problem.
it becomes a problem. So is the Bible. So when we have it in our, for example, maybe let's go back to canonization of the Bible before it is brought to us. So when you look at canonization of the Bible before it is brought to us, you then understand that the one that we have as the printed page is resonating with the one that is the first documents of origin.
Yes.
So the documents of origins and the ones that we're using, if they're the same, then there's no way in between whereby we can say it was manipulated or it was maybe the way it was used. Through the chief.
Villagers.
Yes. Okay. Ora chimira ipa. Ikoko. That's fine.
Okay. Yes, village.
They were written by, let's say, Amos, who was coming from somewhere, and brought in relation to what he was going through. There is a letter to the Corinthians, which shows there was a ministry to the Corinthians.
All right.
So when we go to the Bible, where does Africa come
Fit
into
in.
play?
All right.
Does this mean that before the missionaries came, God had no plan for
Africa.
For us to have somewhere written, because we have stories of the Ethiopian eunuch. If he was minister, don't we have a writing somewhere
Addressing them
to the Ethiopian eunuch and what he did in ministry? Because if you look at the Bible, the whole of the Bible, it just mentioned the Ethiopian eunuch, the Queen of Sheba. But where did Africa, especially for Bible, say this now, to Zimbabwe?
I like it. Now, let me start with Amanda, Village Amanda. Now, Village Amanda, number one, when you look at the bigger picture, the Bible as we have it is, let me use these words, is an Eastern story that was brought forth by Western hands. So it was not written in the West, as we have said. It's a story, its setup is in the East. Are we there together? Then the Western guys saw the story in the Eastern narrative. Then they brought it south to us. So the Bible now, if you want to understand the narrative of the Bible, it's not via the Western hands, but go direct to the Eastern narrative where the Bible is being acted. It was not acted in Europe. It was acted in the East. But now when the Western guys wanted what they want in the southern area, they then used the Eastern narrative to suppress the southern guys. So the Bible on its own is no problem because it's coming from the East. The Western guys now are the ones that then used or abused the Bible to suppress the southern guys. So ndopano gadza pamamchitizoni mwari rangari kuwa kunasina harizi ravo vanofana kutoriverengawo. So it's the stole of Palestine that is the Europeans are using to suppress the Africans. You get it? That's number one. Number two, Tupaida, when you're looking at the Bible, we may not have, and we don't have, a specific letter written to Egypt, to Ethiopia, to Nubia as we have it. But look at the narrative of the Bible. Number one, we have Abraham, who is called, Genesis chapter 11, who is called from the heir of the Chaldeans. Yes. And that's Babylon, chief.
Yes, Babylon. Okay.
Babylon is Iraq. And Iraq is where? Is in Asia. So, well, let's go to Abraham. He has 3 sons, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. And the Shemites, that's where we have Babylon. That's where we have Iraq. So when Abraham was called, he was called from the heir of the Chaldeans, from Babylon, to come to Africa, for your information. Because before the split of the continent, before the Suez Canal was there, even the Palestine was part of Africa. So when Abraham was being called, I'll show you a land of milk and honey, he was called to Africa. He was called to us. So when Abraham came, being shown a land, he was given our land. Put it aside. Jacob.
Yes.
He is now old. His son is in Israel, is in Egypt. And the whole of the nation, the whole of the universe had to go to Egypt for sustenance. This is Egypt. Okay, leave it there. You have Moses, the leader of the church. He is schooled in Egypt to lead the church. Put it aside. And the whole of the kings, the help of Israel, the reason why God said, don't go to Egypt, don't go to Ethiopia. Of course, they have horses, they have got chariots, but they're not angels. It's because the help of the church in the dark ages of the Old Testament was in Egypt. So the hope of the church is still in Egypt. So I'm in the Old Testament looking at Egypt. Let's move. Egypt is conquered, we have Babylon, Egypt is dead, so to speak. We get into the narrative of the New Testament. Where is the Egypt? Jesus is now being affected. Now there's the Suez Canal, there's the split. Now we have the eastern side, now we have Africa. Jesus has run away from them, coming back home to Egypt. And for years, close to probably 7 or so, he's in Egypt. So the better part of his life, his Pathfinder life, was here at home. And he went back. Right. You mentioned the eunuch of Candace. But maybe before the eunuch of Candace, why not mention Simon of Cyrene? The one who bore the cross of the Savior is indeed coming from Africa, from northern Africa. So in as much as we may not have a direct letter that is written for Africa, Africa has been active in the Bible.
Chief, okay.
Chief.
Let me take it now. I'll come to you.
Yes.
I'll come to you. Thank you very much, Oga.
Thank you.
I like that narrative that you've just said. Oga, in our ancestors, us. Our ancestors provide for us.
Okay.
We cry, they bring.
Okay.
We tell them things, they protect. I want girl, they provide.
Yes.
This God that you are talking about, does he love me and protect me and provide food for me?
Okay. You notice that, I'll come back to the issue of ancestors, that we are bringing faith to them, or we are considering them when they are dead. That's when they are at the state of being less powerful.
Yes.
So the one who provides, this God is so merciful that even if you were using crooked ways, he still provides. There are stories in Africa whereby you hear that people go under a tree, they'll do whatever they do under a tree, then there's provision, or there's a rain-making ceremony. It's a way in which Africans were trying to reach out to God, and God in his mercies, though the route was wrong or was crooked, God would still provide. But now he has brought a proper way of going to him. I think we need now to use the proper way of going to him, not that crooked way, and he would still say, well, these are my children. They are not yet knowledgeable of how they can approach me, and I provided. Now that they know the way, they should use the way.
Okay. Villagers, I say this now. We are going to be abandoning any rain-making festivity from this day forward. Have we agreed on that one?
There's a end.
I see a village. Yes, there.
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge the presence of Ogamente right here.
Oh,
Oga.
He should also,
be part of
these notorious villages also
address. That's fine. Thank you, Oga. We welcome you, Ogamente.
Thank you, Ogamente. Let's greet him the African way. Thank you very much. Yes. So, Oga, there's a part that was being mentioned, and I think Villager Amanda was talking about it. Villager Amanda talked about a plan. So, Oga, I just also want to show you that I have knowledge. I saw you were busy showing others that you have knowledge. I went to school also, Oga. From my understanding, Oga, a plan is a detailed proposal.
Okay.
Right? And it has to achieve something.
All right. All right.
So in your topic, you are saying that God has a plan for us people, Africans.
Okay.
And that means there is something that he wants us to achieve.
All right. All right. All right. All right.
In that plan.
All right.
Or there is something that he wants to achieve with Africans in this plan.
Okay.
What is this plan, Oga, that you are talking about here?
Now, this topic is the villagers who thought then that God has a plan for Africa. But the question would be, does he have a plan for India? Does he have a plan for Europe? Or is our thinking that probably we are ostracized or we are left out?
Yes.
God, when he's looking at us, in as much as he's looking at us corporately, he looks at us individually. So God has a plan for each and every individual. Let me say, Oga, I'm an African. I was taken aback for a long time, and I was confused. I said, if only I was born in Europe, then I would be having all these things and other things. No, that's so wrong. Live as a child of God in Zimbabwe in Harare, Chitungwiza.
Okay.
You are equally a child of God as one who is in Michigan. So let us not compartmentalize this God and lock him in geography and say, Africa, he is an universal God. So you are just a child of God who is in Chitungwiza. You are equally the child of God as one who is in Michigan, or as one who is, I don't know where they are.
Yes.
You are a child of God, and God has plans for you individually. In as much as he's going to look at us corporately, or as a nation, or as a country, or as a city, he also has a plan for you individually. And God has predestined all of us, regardless of where we are coming from, for a better life. So the plan of God may not be written down as you may want it, but the plan of God for us all. You remember he said, whoever believes in him, whosoever, regardless of where you're coming from,
Yes.
God can save you. God can also come through for you. You are a child of God living in Zimarasekwa. You are a child of God living in Lesotho. Not necessarily Africa. I'm a child of God. Okay. And I have equal access as one who is in Cambridge.
I see. You know, I have notorious villagers in here. I will abandon them from this village from now on.
Yes.
But I remember, Oga, I see you, my villagers. Yeah. I remember, Oga, when I was reading a certain paper, I think it's from the Bible, if I'm not mistaken. And this was saying, all tongues, nation, kindreds. Is this also affirming what you are saying? that to God, He didn't create us in our distinctive thing that we think that I'm African, European, Asian.
No.
He just created humanity.
Yes. If you read Acts chapter 1, it's just that we're not yet into the Bible.
Yes.
But in chapter 17, actually, I think it's verse 25, He made all nations from one blood. So whether you're coming from Europe, you're coming from Asia, you're coming from Africa, you're coming from America, all of us, we are made of one blood. So God created Adam and Eve, and all spring up from him. We have Noah, who is coming out of the ark, and we have Shem, Japheth, and Ham, and all of us, regardless of where we are stationed right now, we are coming from one blood. So God is looking at us as His children. All of us are His children, who are located in different places.
All right. I'll ask Villager Paida to start, and then we go to Amanda.
From what the pastor is saying, now my question is, why then, if it is like that, if Africa is accepted like that, why then do I have to be westernized to be accepted in the Christianity fraternity? For example, why should I wear a jacket and a tie to be accepted? Because I would like to believe there's an African dressing.
Okay.
Not only that, when I play Mbira, when I play Ngoma, why is it
Demonized.
Demonized.
Okay.
But when we are playing the piano, it's actually called, I don't know what you call it, but it's actually saying this is the actual music that we want to listen to.
Okay.
Why then is it like that? And me personally, as an African, if I'm going to be accepted, we celebrate, even in dance, there's a certain way that we
express.
Even in worship, we express ourselves through noise and dancing and stuff. Why then is it not accepted in the church?
Okay.
But the Western tradition, should I say, is accepted?
Okay, so I'll go back to where I started. Remember I said Christianity as we have it, or the Bible as we have it, is played in the East, brought to us by the Western hands. You get it? So it is interpreted in our culture. So the people who brought it to us interpreted it in their culture. So the Bible is Eastern, but now we are looking at it from Western eyes. That's the problem that we're having. If we're going to remove the Western eyes, look at the Bible from Eastern eyes, we will notice that most of the things that we're saying are bad, they're not. So it's the white now, when they came with this thing, they interpreted it from a Western perspective, and they said, this is modest from a Western perspective. But is it modest in the Eastern perspective? Is it modest in Palestine? Let's remove ourselves as Africans. Let's take Palestine in America. Is what is modest in America modest in Palestine? No, it's not. What is modest in Palestine and modest in America, they're two different things. So when you're approaching the Bible as learned Africans, let's remove the Western eyes and put on the African eyes and put on the Eastern eyes and say, wow, this God, we are putting ourselves in a shell, in a cocoon, because we are looking. Actually, the reason why Africa, we are not so spiritual at times, my chief, is because we are confused. We are very much confused. And we can't be spiritual. Because when I want to express, I look at Miss Brown and Miss whoever.
Yes.
Was she doing this? No, Miss Brown could not do this.
Yes.
Why? Because she's Western. But now, what about one who is coming from Amalek and one who is coming from Beersheba, that is from Palestine? What would they do? Even David is mentioned, you could dance.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So I think it's not, and actually instruments as we have them, they are amoral. Are we together? Instruments are amoral. But what we are going to do with them is going to put morality.
Okay.
So as we have instruments, they are moral. They don't have a problem. But now how we view them and how we have been, and this thing has been happening ever since the days of the Great Zimbabwe, when these guys came. Remember, I read you a letter from 1883, when King Belgium was writing a letter to Africa. And from thence, we've been cultured to think that we are less of humans, or our culture is not then acceptable before God.
Okay.
I just want to thank you, Ogaga, for enlightening me when you say even Jesus came to Africa. I think that's where we dispense the concept of Musikaran. No one taught us, but we came up with that.
Yes.
We know it's the Shona culture, or Zendele, or Chibenda. You know, we got different names, I think, because of what is instilled in us.
In us.
And it- But
Yes, we are.
We are descendants of Ham. So where is God's plan for Africa? Because he cursed Ham's descendants. And he said that you shall serve
Okay.
Shem and Japheth.
Okay.
So when he did that, I think I can now see it
Okay.
playing out. Because Africans
Our servants.
Oh, my sister, my sister.
I am trying to
Okay.
understand.
Thank you.
Would you allow Ogamente?
Right. What I'll say maybe as I give Ogapiri and Ogamente, I would say number one, we going back to the narrative of Genesis. It doesn't necessarily say then Canaan is going to serve Shem and Japheth, but the narrative says he's going to be a servant of his brothers. You get it? So the brothers are Put and in Cush and in Mizraim, not necessarily going up to the other branch where we have Shem and Japheth. So we allowed them to think, well, he's saying that, but his immediate brothers are Cush, Mizraim, and Put, not necessarily Japheth and Shem. And the other thing, we being descendants of Ham. Remember, I gave you maybe 4 descendants of Ham. We have Canaan, the one who is cursed. We have Cush, the one who is black. Cushites are black. So it's not that this pigment is then the one that is cursed, but there's one who is cursed, who is not necessarily, we don't know the pigmentation of Canaan. We don't know the pigmentation of Canaan, but we know the pigmentation of Cush, that Cushite is black. So it doesn't then say as blacks we are cursed. Maybe Ogapiri and Ogamente will come through. Or it has been answered.
We are waiting for you, Ogaz. You are still trying to catch up with
Genesis 9.
While we are waiting for them, I want to read this part. It's a question which is asked whether, as Adventists, we are allowed to dance.
Okay.
And the answer is, the missionaries required the new converts to enter Aliyah, observe the 7th day, Sabbath, have nothing to do with witchcraft, spirit worship, or wear charms, and refrain from dancing.
Okay.
So it was one of the requirements which came for the same government. Not only that, let me go to something written in Review and Herald, where our paraphrase. It's actually important that we shouldn't play drums or make noise as we are inviting the devil instead of the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
So my question still remains. What I am saying, so as Africans, if we do our music, that which we are supposed to be doing, drums, lira, and stuff, are we devil worshippers?
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I think, would you want to answer, villager? Okay, there's a villager who wants to answer there.
This one is a convert now.
This is a convert?
Yeah.
Ah,
My
okay.
first convert.
Okay, thank you. I think taking it from Romans 2, my belief is, it's not about time. It's not coming to this religion, Christianity. We are no longer holding back on our own customs. Because there are some customs which are contrary to God.
Okay.
If you read Romans 2, it then says that God forgave that past our ancestors for worshiping that day.
Okay.
And God, on the day of judgment, is going to judge them with the truth that they had at that time.
All right.
Which means that it's not coming to the Christian religion, to this big family. We must, there are certain things that you must not hold so dear. Okay, to understand maybe the concept of dating from a biblical point of view, we realize that on the day of atonement, there was a certain behavior that the children of Israel do.
Okay.
And this is the same assumption that we are in that same day.
Okay.
And there are certain things that worship made us that we cannot give a name to.
Oh, thank you.
So, not the concept that
Oh, thank you. Now, you notice one thing as I come to Mente. There's another villager. So let me cue this one and give the villager. Oga, let's look at things that are worldly and things that are secular. So when the Western guys came,
Yes.
they're looking at our social system and our religious system, and they're seeing for the first time things that are, for them, they're bizarre. They say, how can people do these things? And they quantified almost everything to be demoniac.
Yes.
And to be secular. Okay. But not everything that is secular then is worldly. Okay. The Bible, we should be very careful of being worldly.
Okay.
But we do many secular things that are not worldly.
Okay.
Okay. Like you notice, Kuti, the way I'll give you an example. Why is it, Amanda and Paida, we don't remove the concept of lobola when the whites don't do it? It's within our culture.
Yes.
And it's not bad. But whites will not do chakrai kuno, will not do makandins wanan, will not have us going to roar and do that right. But we are doing it. Is it worldly? No. Is it in the Bible? We may not find it the same way we do it this side. But it's there in the Bible. But it's not there, that side, in the Western. So are they wrong? No, they are doing their culture and their tradition, which is acceptable. So there are things within our culture that are acceptable. And when you do them, you are not wrong, even before God. But when you see now then that thus says the Lord is against that which my tradition, my culture is doing, oh God, you need to teach us to get away from those cultures. For example, I'll give you one example. We have this practice of chiramu,
Yes.
and playing with our minings and stuff like that. We put the thus says the Lord here and our practice here. Are they in tandem? Are they fitting into each other? They are not. So I remove it. But lobola is still fine. I go on. Now, when we're doing our rites for the ancestors, we are doing Kurama Kuwa and stuff like that, we then go to the Bible. What is it saying regarding the dead? Saying you can't do this for the dead. So I'm removing it. So let's look at our culture and then we have these two things, secular things and things that are worldly. Even on music, I think we need to revisit this topic again and look at things that are worldly. They must be removed from us.
Yes.
All worldliness must be removed from us. But there are many things that are secular that we do that are not bad before God.
Okay.
I know I've said some things that can disturb many people.
Yeah, okay, because you've tickled a lot of people right now. There was a hand, villager there, Elijah.
I wanted to say, let us not try to run away from the fact that when our ancestors would beat the drums and fight for death for themselves in their midst, and when they would do that, yes, spirit mediums would come to those who are ritualistic about their lives. So it's about what you are doing and your motive behind you beating that drum.
Thank you.
That is very important.
Thank you.
In heaven, the SOP, there are instruments there, the trumpets, and there are those things that David used to play. But when they were playing those things, they were actually running the Holy Ghost instead of other party. So this then supposes that there's a type of way that when you play, the Holy Spirit comes, and there's a type of way when you play, the other party comes to play. So it's not about the instrument itself, but what you're using it for and the motive behind it, right? So the reason why also SOP then suggests the misuse of instrument was because from that scenario where she's quoting from, there were a lot of emotions that were coming to play rather than sobriety and thinking itself. So people were being hooked up on emotions. They've been like hypnotized into a trance.
Okay.
So to then say that we are counsel against the use of instruments on that particular, but harmonize instruments which are played reverently before God, are acceptable in
You see, I like my village, you see. My village has wise people here.
Very, very,
Very wise people
wise.
here. Yeah, very wise.
Now, I just want to add on to one thing, then I see Mente must say something.
Yes.
When you go to the book of Revelation, the one you quoted, the other things that I want you to throw in, Elijah, even the book of Ezekiel or even the book of Daniel, as these guys were writing, God would give them images, Oga, and visions. But for lack of better words, they'd say, what I saw was like, or it looked as.
Okay.
Not that it was what he said. It looked like. So they were writing in the context of the things that they understand. So if it was a Shona coming from Churumanzu, when they saw a keyboard being played in a vision, they would not say it was a keyboard, but something like a mbira was played.
Okay.
So the people, when they understand, what he wanted to say was keyboard. But in his schemata, there is no keyboard. He hasn't seen it before. But he has something that is closer to the keyboard. And it's mbira. So say, in the vision, what I saw being played was more like mbira. And in our interpretation, was then saying, in heaven there are mbiras. No, he saw something like mbira.
Okay. Ogamente, what is your position on this one?
It's a bit tricky because you pardon me, I was very like so many years ago, so I'm not sure whether I'm loud or what.
It's fine.
That's what I hear myself. It's a very strange topic.
Yeah.
Look, this is a very deep and a very sensitive topic. There's one scholar from East Africa. He did a nice paper on how Adventism found its way to Africa, starting from the south and southern Africa, from the upwards. And maybe one or two things that one would share. First of all cultures are fallen. There's no culture that is holier than other cultures. But what we have seen when it comes to Christianity, we have used the Western culture
As a
to
standard.
measure other cultures. So anything that doesn't fit into the Western culture is deemed as demonic, as if the Western culture is holy. That thing is not holy. It is a culture of white people, and it is a culture of black people. But what the Western world managed to do thoroughly, it is to make the African believe and think that because they brought the Bible with them, and I like that, they did not believe in God. And when they came with those ships, they were not believing in God. They came to Africa to learn about God. Because they did not know God fully. Because it is incorrect to assume that the full revelation of God is in the Bible. Because when you make that assumption,
Sure.
you're basically saying for you to know God, you need to be literate first. So for you to know God, you need to know how to read.
Oh God.
And there is a prerequisite for knowing God, that we know how to read. So it is an incorrect perception that we only got to know about God through the Bible. We knew God without the Bible. We could not read, but we knew God. So whatever they introduced was not God. It was their own interpretation
Of God.
who God is. But what they did, then they made their interpretation of what God is superior than ours. And they did that, not through theological persuasion, but they did that through militant conquest. You see, if our gods can defeat your God, it basically means our God is superior than your God. I've had the privilege of doing a bit of research and studying how missionaries thrived in Africa. A lot in South Africa, a lot of South African people did not go to the missionary schools because they were persuaded, because they were convinced. Because of their disposition
No.
They converted
They are the hungry.
because those people were promising a better lifestyle. One writer says the only remaining soldier of coloniality in Africa is the church. You must never assume that the church, when I say the church, I mean the Christian body in totality, was a neutral figure that came here to bring Christ. Not at all. It was another arm of the oppressive power of the Western imperialists. So the Western imperialists, you see, in South Africa in particular, what they did, they started bringing soldiers to come and conquest and defeat. But then they later realized, Wilberforce makes this argument in court in England. He says, look, it is easy to Christianize the African than to kill them. He says, it is profitable to Christianize the African than to kill them. His argument was that because these people are so stubborn, they will not bend and change. They would rather die. So what you need to do, Christianize them. And as a result of that, you will have submissive slaves. Because this system you've been using, you are losing out on manpower. You are killing these people. Don't kill them, Christianize them. Preach to them a God who says, obey your master as in the Lord. Teach them a white God, because when you teach them about a white God, they will not revolt against their white master. So the whole thing, you go to Congo Leopard, how they use the Bible to capture the minds of the people. The whole thing of believing in Christianity, I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, it was not as innocent as we think it was, but it was through the grace of God that as Africans, we embraced Jesus and we embraced God. As a by the way, we were not given God, but we were given a tool to pacify us. You see, moving on to this question of culture and what. For a white man to become a Christian and accepted in the Christian community, he just needs to quit smoking and alcohol and go straight to church as he is, without changing anything. But for you as an African, you must change your clothes, you must change your thinking, you must change everything about you for you to become a Christian. A white man, they had a dilemma in South Africa. Whether they didn't know whether to convert us or to civilize us. Now what they did, it's very laughable. When they would write to Europe, they would say, we have so many converts. Please bring this number of shirts and number of pens. So that when you accept Christ, you have to take off your clothes and wear their clothes. Because there was a correlation between pants and shirt and Jesus Christ. Because according to their teachings, Christ will not accept you the way you are. So before you become a Christian, you must become a white man first. And then you become a Christian. Because whiteness precedes Christianity. So you cannot jump from being black and then become a Christian. That is why a lot of Christians, when they go to the general conference, they have cognitive dissonance because they see things they never thought would exist in the Adventist church. I mean, here we are sitting here, we are told don't clap hands in church, don't do this, don't do this. When they go to America, people go to Ellen White's grave. The very thing we are forbidden to them to go to our graves. But I mean, there's a tough life that takes you to Ellen White's grave. The very thing that is demonized in Africa. By the way, when the Adventist church started, it was a Pentecostal movement. Yes. It was a Pentecostal movement. The church went through evolution. It changed, within time because it was a combination of people coming from different churches, different denominations, different, cultures, religious cultures or theological cultures. So they came together, and then over time the church evolved and the church evolved. Through that evolution, there is no system or style of worship that was holier than the other. Okay? Now, what we tend to do today, this will sound very controversial.
Sure.
We like to make our own personal preferences that to the will of God. Because you like this kind of music, and then you think God loves that music. Because the Adventist church comes from a culture in America where what do you call this country music? Country music is a thing. Now all of us must sing like that because we accepted. I did before I sit down. I did some reading on Isaiah Shem, genius. Isaiah Shem of the Nazareth Church, genius. His hymnology, you know, the way he sang, the way he taught the Bible and all of that. And you get taught to know Bible studies, you know, with the settlers, with the colonizers, with the missionaries. And then they discovered that. In fact, they were trying to impose Lobola is wrong, Lobola is devilish. You cannot save your children. They did not understand the whole concept of Lobola. They said this thing Africans are selling their own children. They didn't understand the rights of passage from boyhood to manhood. I mean, as late as in the 50s in South Africa, there were still missionaries who were upset that the Amakosa people in South Africa, they still send their boys to the churches to even though they are Christians. They say these people will never convert. Imagine they are still selling their children in this day and age. So what the Westerners failed to appreciate and do, and this is called white arrogance, when white people get into a space,
they dominate.
Anything that does not agree with them, it is wrong.
Yes.
And they would want everyone and anyone to succumb and bow to that philosophy. And I think what we need to be sensitive and appreciate as this generation, we live among people who subscribe to different views. Before I sit down, an elder comes to me and says, hey, I must talk to my son. And this boy doesn't understand. He wants to wear jeans to church, take his jackets, must talk to him. I said to him, before I talk to him, just convince me, what is wrong about wearing sneakers when you go to church? I said to him, you know, we have a generation of pastors and church elders who don't subscribe to our theology, our thinking, and our culture. You will die a bitter old man when you see an elder standing in front wearing a pair of jeans.
And sneakers like mine.
You die with your heart torn, thinking that the church of God is going astray. And you ask yourself, who said?
Sneakers must not come.
And you understand, it is the white man. It is the white man who told us all these things. But also, we must be sensitive.
Thank you.
And we must be sensitive that we worship people with different understanding. I know I'm very liberal, but I'm able to adapt myself. Even before when I came here, I got Catholic, I wear this guy, I wear that guy, I wear this guy, I do this guy. Because I don't want to offend the people of that particular party. Because when you do that, you have actually inherited the white arrogance. You come to a space and you want to bulldoze these people. If you find a group of people who still believe
In suit and tie.
should be done in this particular way, you must respect that. Because what they are doing, essentially, it is not wrong. Even though it does not matter, it is not wrong. And you cannot then bully them into changing what they are doing. Because it does not offend God. Why should it offend Him? Because these people are not worshiping you in the worship. If they believe that wearing a tie and wearing this and wearing this, it's fine, it's fine. Let them do that. It does not offend God. But they should not impose on you. Now you should not impose on them. So in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, times are changing, cultures are changing, but God does not change. He remains the same.
Thank you, Olga.
And He is able to inculcate Himself
Within the context.
context. You go to South Korea, they wear their same attire. They wear their attire and go to God. God does not say, hey, why are you not wearing suits? You go to China, they wear the same way they come before God. But here in Zimbabwe and South Africa, we must all look like white people from England.
Oga.
Okay. What does the villagers say? Okay.
Yeah, we need to wrap it
Now,
up.
now we need to wrap this thing up now.
Yes,
I see you, villager, but I need to wrap this now.
Yeah.
People need to go eat at home now. Tell me, Oga, as we close this part, we talked about a plan.
Sure.
What are we supposed to do as Africans in this plan? Maybe just in brief, what is the plan and where do we fit in this plan as you close it off to us?
Well, thank you. You notice that the plan of God is each and every one of us be saved ultimately.
Okay.
So what we need to do is, as individuals, is to accept the Son of God as He's brought to us. So when ours is only to accept the Son of God and do those things that God is happy of. Like we look at the things that God is not offended with, and we do those things, not necessarily looking at the next person. Is God happy with what I'm doing? Is God happy with me? And at the same time, your rights then should not infringe my own rights. Like what Ogamento was saying, that your comfort and your liberties should not then infringe my rights as well. So if we are going to be in a body of believers, then we are going to look at what is modest in that context or in that locality. And when we are worshiping God in that locality with that group of people, then we do that which is modest in that culture. And that is our part.
Thank you very much, Oga.
You're welcome, Oga.
That was a beautiful presentation.
Thank you. Yes.
I have understood it pretty well. And I think I'll start following this God that you are mentioning about.
Thank you. Thank you.
What does the villager say?
There's a villager who wants to say something.
There's still one. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to thank you, Oga, for bringing such a topic.
Thank you.
And I actually realized that God had a plan for us even before we could read from the Bible.
Thank you.
We also knew how to keep the Sabbath. Of course, it was not in the right day, on the right day, but we had cheese. We still believe that Musikawan is creator of, so God always had a plan for us. So I thank you for such a very enlightening lesson.
Wow, this is a convert.
Yes, yes.
And also just closing with Mark, I think I like this idea. You know, as young people, we must always agitate.
Sure.
We must always push the boundaries. We must always, let's not say, we will not have a future church if young people of our generation just see and watch and do nothing. We must always push the boundaries and see how far we can push it. We must not sit down and do nothing, because change will never come. And we're not doing this for ourselves. We are doing this for our children and the generations that come before us. Because if we do not do that, I can tell you right now, in the next 20 years, we will not have a church. Because the young ones that are coming before us, they will come to a group of old people that they do not recognize, that they do not relate with, that they do not understand. So we must always take the church from this point to this point, but always within the boundaries and the perimeters of the teachings of the Word of God.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate this kind of agitation. We will not always find each other, but we must always agitate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I said. Okay. Thank you. As I, the chief of this village, and also thanking our guest, Oga, as we close, I'll ask that Oga Pili gives a prayer for us so that we live in grace and in goodness.
At least in the bell.
Our Father who art in heaven, stand ukubonga ngesifundo ade siphambi kwethu. Kuzonokwata kwenda ukuthi bafanga Yesu. Ukuthi bese sidone kuwa abantu bane uhunyu noratidza chimiro chamakatsikati. Our desire is that we become a better generation, that we will not only be comfortable in what has been passed on to us, but a generation that is willing to explore and to understand you better, even in our own African context. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.